Welcome back to our new story for Deadly Allure, a Mafia romance tale. Before Chapter 1 begins, let the world whisper its secrets. In a realm carved by fate and fire, where hearts break louder than wars, and silence often speaks more than screams, there begins a journey unlike any other. This is not just a story, it's a heartbeat pressed between pages. A war of love, loss, loyalty, and the hunger for something more. Every word ahead will test your soul. Now close your eyes, breathe in, and step beyond the ordinary. The real story begins now. 4. Deadly Allure. Chapter 1. A siren's call to the underworld. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow in the dark waters below. The air was thick with mystery, and the waters appeared to pulse like a heartbeat. Elena stood at the edge of the boat, her heart racing. She could hear the whispers of the night, calling her closer to the abyss. It was a siren's call, sweet and haunting, inviting her to the world beneath the waves. Her life had always been filled with shadows, the kind that traveled with her in the alleys of her mind. But tonight, those shadows felt different, more alive than ever. The promise of danger and desire hung in the air like perfume. She knew this risk all too well, but felt strangely drawn to it. The city was nothing compared to the passion lurking in the underworld. She'd seen the thrill in Marco's eyes as he spoke of his life among the Mafia, but he had also warned her about the fine line between love and destruction. Their love had ignited like a flame in the wind, and now it threatened to consume everything. Each time they met, the tension crackled in the air, daring her to dive deeper. But the deeper she fell, the higher the stakes became. As the boat rocked gently, she thought about Marco, his charming smile, the way his eyes lit up when he shared his dreams. All of that clashed with the dangerous life he led. The Mafia life was intoxicating. It filled her with a sense of purpose, but it was also fraught with peril. Marco had once told her, "In this world, love is a weapon, use it wisely." Yet here she was now, torn between her safety and the wild allure of his chaotic existence. Suddenly, a shout rang from behind. Elena turned to see Marco's silhouette rushing toward her, a wild look in his dark eyes. "Elena! Don't!" he yelled, his voice cutting through the night like a knife. But it was too late. The boat swayed dangerously as she inched forward, mesmerized by the glowing water below. "Stay back," she called. The pull of the sea was too strong. Something glimmered in its depth, a treasure that called for her. Marco's expression twisted with panic, and he lunged for her, grasping her wrist just as she prepared to leap. "You don't know what's down there," he warned, his voice laced with urgency. "I want to know. I need to know," she shouted back, feeling the tide of emotion swell within her. In that moment, both love and fear intertwined, creating a tempest inside. Her heart. She met his worried gaze, her heart caught in a tug of war. What if it's beautiful there? What if it's a paradise? I can't keep living in the shadows. Marco shook his head, his grip tightening around her wrist. "You think it's beautiful? You think you'll find paradise? Elena, it's a trap. They'll use you. They'll destroy you." His words hung heavy in the air, and doubt began to creep into the edges of her determination. The allure had turned bitter, tainted by the harsh reality of his warnings. Her mind raced as she recalled tales of the underworld, a place where trust was a mockery and betrayal was currency. She felt the ache of longing twist in her chest. What if the darkness consumed her? Yet there was a part of her that craved understanding. "I want to understand you, Marco," she pleaded. "I want to see your world. I want to choose." His eyes softened momentarily, and she saw the flicker of a fight in him, a struggle to protect her from the very life that had enchanted her. "Choosing means risking everything," he finally said, his voice raw. "It means you might lose me." Elena swallowed hard, the pain etched on her face. She felt like a teetering scale, balanced between love and danger. His presence was both a comfort and a chain. "I'd rather know the depths than live in ignorance," and she said quietly, though her heart trembled. Marco's grip slowly loosened. "Then you need to understand the cost," he replied, his tone gentle but firm. "If you dive into The underworld, you may never surface again. The words echoed in her mind like a haunting melody. She looked out at the dark waves, where mystery and risk intertwined, beckoning her onward. A part of her knew he was right. The shadows whispered of great loss, of love that could twist into something unrecognizable. But there was an unquenchable fire inside her, a hunger for the knowledge that lay beneath the waters. With a heavy heart, she stepped back from the edge. The siren song faded, slightly, but she still felt its pulse in her veins. "Then let me choose the danger," she said, determination hardening her voice. "I won't be afraid of the darkness that comes with love." Marco studied her, their eyes locking in a moment heavy with understanding. In the twilight embrace of the night, both knew they faced a journey that would stretch beyond the boundaries of love and loyalty. It would be a path filled with shadows and peril. As they stood together on that rocking boat, a fragile promise hung between them, woven from love and danger. Elena took a deep breath, realizing that life on the edge of the underworld was not just about the allure. It was also about the choices that shaped them. And just like the tide, when one enters the depths, there's always a risk of being pulled under. She felt a thrill ripple through her, excitement and fear mingling in a dance as ancient as the ocean itself. Fourth Deadly Allure. Chapter 2. Desire's Ruthless Kiss. The air crackled with unspoken tension. Elena stood in Marco's dimly lit apartment, shadows dancing around them as the city hummed outside. She could hear the distant echo of sirens, a reminder of the world that stood against them. The reality of their situation seeped into her like a cold breeze. She had stepped into a life filled with danger, but the allure of Marco's world was sticky and sweet, like honey luring in a bee. Every time he looked at her, she felt the sting of desire mixed with the taste of fear. "Do you really want this?" he asked, his voice low and steady. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes intense. There was a raw edge to his question. It cut deeper than she expected. The moment felt heavy, charged with the weight of their choices. "Do you understand what you're risking?" Elena bit her lip, fighting the urge to look away. She had thought she wanted this reckless love, this dangerous thrill. But in that moment, the shadows in his eyes mirrored her fears. "I'm willing to face it," she replied, trying to sound brave, but her voice trembled slightly. "I want to be with you, no matter the cost." Marco stepped closer, the space between them closing like a door shutting tight. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Wanting me is one thing, living my life is another. Can you bear the chaos?" His thumb brushed her cheek, igniting a fire beneath her skin. She felt the thud of her heart in her throat. She wanted to scream, yes, to kiss him fiercely and lose herself in his arms. But the shadows of their reality loomed large. "I can't pretend the danger isn't there," Elena finally said, her voice firm as she met his gaze. "But I need to understand you. This world, it pulls me in." Marco's expression softened, but the weight of his past hung between them, thick and suffocating. "They'll come for us, Elena. The moment they see you with me, they'll see a weakness. You'll be a target, and I can't protect you from that." The words struck her like a wave crashing onto the shore. The fear felt like ice in her veins. But still, she stepped forward, her resolve hardening. "If I'm going to be a target, then I want to fight for us." He held her gaze, searching her face for doubt. But all he found was determination. The room felt small, the air heavy with the weight of their decision. What had begun as sweetness shifted into something more urgent, more dangerous. In that moment of connection, a decision etched itself into both their hearts. Marco's hands found her waist, pulling her closer. The world outside vanished, and all that remained was the heat between them. "You're reckless," he whispered, leaning down to capture her lips in a kiss that burned. It was a kiss that tasted of longing and desperation, a wild promise of what they could be. She melted into him, losing herself in the storm of emotions that crashed around them. Every thought of fear faded, replaced by a fierce desire. It felt right. It felt alive. But just as quickly, the kiss turned into a maelstrom. It became clear that passion wasn't their only companion tonight. The reminder of their fractured world invaded their moment. The sound of a loud crash interrupted them, and they broke apart, breathless. Outside, chaos erupted. Elena's heart raced as Marco's expression shifted to steely resolve. "Stay close," he ordered, his voice sharp and commanding. He moved to the window, peering into the street below. She felt the dread begin to uncoil within her. "What is it?" she asked, worry flooding her. "Feds," he replied, his tone low and serious. "They're getting too close. We need to go." Elena's stomach dropped. Fear surged through her, as hot as the kiss that had just consumed them. This was the reality she feared, the world that seemed to wrap around them like a noose. "Go where?" she demanded, panic in her voice. His eyes darted back to her, dark with urgency. "We can't stay. Here it's not safe. I can't let them take you." The gravity of his words sank in like a stone. She could see the fear etched onto his face, an unfamiliar sight she wouldn't have associated with him. It was as if he was caught between protecting her and his life. "Marco, I won't run away from you," she insisted, but she could hear the fear lacing her voice. "You don't understand the stakes, Elena," he snapped. The tension hung between them like a fragile thread. Would she shatter under the weight of his world? "You can't be with me," he added, voice strained. "Not if this is how it ends." The air thickened with regret and urgency. Here he was, pushing her away for her own safety. But she wasn't powerless. "Don't you see? I'm here because I choose you. I choose this. Running won't change what we feel or what they could do." For a heartbeat, their eyes locked. A silent battle of wills. She could feel her heart racing, each breath charged with the weight of consequences. This was love, and love could wound. Then in one swift motion, Marco took her hand, pulling her toward the door. They plunged into the hallway, navigating the darkness. His grip was firm, but she felt the tremor of his hand, his fears mingling with hers. Their bodies moved as one, driven by a rush of adrenaline. But as they stepped into the chaos of the night, the desire that kindled between them was replaced by the urgent need for survival. Somewhere between their flames of passion, they'd ignited the fire of danger. In that moment, she realized that love was more than a feeling. It was a choice that came with risks, challenges, and a firestorm of emotions that could burn them both. And as they sprinted into the night, locked in their whirlwind of chaos and connection, she understood that this fight, this battle for a love that could slice through shadows, had only just begun. Fourth, Deadly Allure. Chapter 3. Entangled in a web of seduction and sin. The streets of the city pulsed with a life of their own, crackling with danger and desire. Elena's heart raced as she and Marco navigated through the dimly lit alleys, her hand intertwined with his. Each step felt like a doorway to a sin she couldn't yet fully comprehend. The air was thick with secrets, promises, and the lingering scent of danger, as if the night itself was watching them. They slipped into a hidden entrance of one of the Mafia's secret clubs, the kind of place where light and dark danced together, merging in irresistible chaos. The music boomed, a rhythm that vibrated through her body. It was intoxicating, drawing her deeper into Marco's world. As she scanned the room, she noticed couples lost in the heat of passion and thrill seekers reveling in the moment. Here, desires swirled in the air like smoke, wrapping around them, binding them in a web of seduction. "Stay close," Marco whispered, his breath warm against her ear. The vulnerability in his voice sent a shiver down her spine, reminding her that they were both treading on dangerous ground. "This place is full of wolves." Elena nodded, but her gaze lingered on a group of figures in the corner, shadows cloaked in mystery. They laughed in rich voices that dripped with power. The allure was magnetic, pulling her in, making her question what lay beneath their charming facades. What was it about this world that made her heart race? As they moved through the crowd, Marco's presence was a constant shield. Yet every passing moment mingled exhilaration with fear. They found a secluded corner where they could breathe, but the darkness felt heavy, almost suffocating. "What if they recognize me?" she asked, biting her lip. Panic bubbled beneath the surface. "They won't," Marco assured her, but his hands trembled slightly as he brushed back her hair. "Just be careful." He gazed into her eyes, searching for reassurance. Across the room, a Washoriki, man with piercing eyes, caught her attention. He grinned in her direction, a sinister smile that sent a shiver down her spine. Recognition flickered within Marco's eyes. "Stay here," he commanded, his tone brisk. He stepped away, moving through the crowd like a shadow, leaving her in the tangled web of seduction and sin. Elena's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to scream for him to come back, but a strange thrill kept her rooted in place. She scanned the room, feeling all the eyes on her, as if they could sense the wild beating of her heart. The air shifted, charged with a sense of unease. Moments later, Marco returned, his brow furrowed and jaw tight. "We need to leave, now." "What happened?" she asked, taking a step closer, needing to feel his strength beside her. "That was Vincenzo," he replied with a grimace. "He's someone we can't afford to underestimate. Let's just say he has an interest in you." Elena felt the world tilt beneath her, the seduction of the club twisting into something darker. "What does that mean? Why me?" "We don't have time," he snapped. Urgency dripped from his words like poison. The reality rushed in, cutting through the veil of excitement they had briefly shared. He grabbed her hand again, pulling her through the throng of bodies, each heartbeat echoing the fight between fear and desire. The closer they got to the exit, the tighter her chest felt. "Elena, keep your eyes down," he urged, glancing around. They were steps away from freedom when she spotted him. Vincenzo stood in the doorway, a dangerous gleam in his eyes. He was a predator, and she was trapped. Marco cursed under his breath, trying to forge a path through the crowd. "You can't let him see you," he murmured, panic threading through his voice. Time seemed to slow. She felt as if she were caught in his gaze at the edge of an unfathomable abyss. "What do we do?" she breathed, barely able to keep her fear at bay. "We run," Marco said firmly, tugging her closer. But the crowd surged and the world blurred around her. In a heart-pounding moment, Vincenzo broke into a grin and strode toward them, weaving through the bodies as if the space were his own. "Marco, fancy meeting you here," he called out, a mocking tone laced with a menacing edge. Elena's heart sank as she watched Marco's jaw tighten. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. "Get out of our way, Vincenzo," he replied lowly, standing a little taller, but still looking anxious. She could sense the power shift, a thickening air rife with the threat of violence. Vincenzo's smile widened, and he took a step closer, eyes glinting with malice. "Ah, but why rush? The night is young, and I must say, Elena, you look delightful in the shadows." Elena shivered under his gaze, a sense of danger washing over her. "Leave us alone," she blurted, feeling small before him. Her bravery surprised even herself, but she felt the need to protect what little space she had left. "Feisty," Vincenzo replied, amusement dancing in his eyes. "I like it, but you should know this. People like me always get what they want." Marco surged forward, positioning himself between her and Vincenzo. "You don't want to mess with us," he warned, his voice strong, holding a fierceness that reminded her of the flame that burned inside him. "Back off." For a moment, the world caught its breath. Vincenzo held Marco's gaze, the challenge crackling in the air. Elena's heart raced, seeing the battle unfold between them. "Fine," Vincenzo finally said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "But I suggest you keep your girl on a shorter leash. I'll be around." With that, he stepped aside, a smile lingering on his lips as he pulled away into the crowd. The tension hung like a dark cloud as they moved toward the exit, fear and adrenaline roaring through Elena's veins. Once outside, they stumbled into the night. Marco's grip on her hand tightened, each breath coming in fast gulps. "Are you okay?" he asked, concerning, flooding his eyes. Elena nodded, though her heart was still racing. The danger had solidified their connection, threading them with an energy that felt both electric and terrifying. "What was that?" she finally managed to ask, the weight of the encounter crashing down. "He's trouble," Marco replied darkly. "Vincenzo is not a man to play games with." "Then why does he want me?" "Because he sees what I see. Your connection to me is a weakness for him to exploit." Marco's voice took on a grim edge as he slowed their pace, moving into the safety of the shadows. She held his gaze, feeling the fire of their shared moment fade to embers in the wake of reality. What if he comes after me again? Marco stepped closer, his breath warm against her skin. I won't let him, he promised fiercely. I'd fight the world for you. In that moment, the web of seduction felt more like a trap, but the bond between them had deepened. Love entwined with danger, making them stronger. She understood now. Love could consume, but it could also protect. This was a battle she couldn't shy away from. The night felt heavy with unspoken promises, yet it was clear that the war was just beginning. They were entwined in a web of sin and desire, and Elena felt for the first time the waves of uncertainty that could push them over the edge into darkness. Would they survive the storm together, or would they be dragged under, lost to the sins that danced around them? Only time would tell, but one truth stood out. Love and danger often walk the same path, and the footprints they left behind could lead to either salvation or perdition. Fourth, Deadly Allure. Chapter 4. Echoes of Temptation and Tragedy. The air had grown thick with whispers. Elena sat in Marco's small apartment, her heart pounding like a drum against her chest. Outside, the city pulsed with life, the laughter of parties, the distant wail of sirens, a constant reminder of the chaos beyond their walls. She could feel the weight of danger pressing in around her, and each shadow seemed to hold secrets of its own. Marco was still out there, dealing with the fallout from their encounter with Vincenzo. Images of that night filled her mind. Vincenzo's chilling smile, the way Marco had stood protectively before her. It all felt like a piece of a vivid nightmare she couldn't escape. She had plunged into a world filled with lust and danger, but now uncertainty clung to her like a shroud. Lust was fierce, but the taste of fear lingered, mixing in a way that left her breathless. Elena pulled her knees to her chest, trying to banish the unsettling thoughts. Just then, the door swung open and Marco stepped inside, his face clouded with tension. Elena, he said, his voice low, we need to talk. A wave of anxiety washed over her, twisting her stomach. Not knowing what he would say made her heart race. What's wrong? She asked, scrambling to her feet. Vincenzo is getting bolder. He has eyes everywhere, Marco replied, running a hand through his hair, the weight of the world resting heavily on his shoulders. He knows we're involved, and he won't stop until he finds a way to use it against us. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What does that mean for us? She whispered, her voice shaky. It means we have to be careful. He moved closer, reaching for her hands and enveloping them in his warmth. I'm not going to lose you. Those words fired a spark of resolve in her, yet doubt still gnawed at the edges of her heart. But what if he finds me? What if he tries to hurt you to get to me? The dread hung thick in the air like a storm cloud, ready to burst. Marco loomed closer, his expression fierce. Nobody touches you. I promise I'll do whatever it takes. His eyes burned with intensity, and she felt the truth of his words wrap around her like a protective barrier. Yet beneath that warmth, she sensed an unease, a truth that lingered between them like an uninvited guest. Promise me you'll be careful, she urged, her voice trembling. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. His expression softened. We're in this together. Whatever happens, we face it side by side. But there are things I need to face alone. The tension rose as the gravity of their situation settled heavily around them. What do you mean? She asked, dread pooling in her chest. I need to confront my past, he replied, his voice laced with pain. There are debts I have to pay and people I owe. It's not just Vincenzo. A mix of fear and desperation surged within her. But what if something goes wrong? I can't lose you, Marco. Please. This fight was not just about love. It was also about survival. I have to do this for us, he said firmly, holding her gaze. I need to untangle the web of my own mistakes before I can build anything with you. The air was thick with a whirlwind of emotions, love, fear, anger, and something deeper that lay beneath the surface. You want to face this alone? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't want you dragged further into this mess. The distance in his tone wrapped around her like ice. No, I refuse to just sit here and wait, she declared, fueled by an unfamiliar surge of courage. I'm a part of this, Marco. I deserve to understand. Tension crackled around them as Marco's eyes searched hers, doubt lingering like an echo between them. This is not our world to play in. People die for these choices, Elena. But I can't be left behind, she insisted, never backing down. If you're going to risk everything, so will I. Marco drew in a deep breath, as if weighing his options. The night seemed to pause as they stood locked in this moment of potential catastrophe. Eventually he nodded, but the burden of uncertainty still lingered in his eyes. Fine, but you need to promise me to stay close. It's dangerous. I promise, she said, her cheeks warming with determination. But inside, doubt still twisted like a vine. Hold on. Stay safe. The echoes of temptation and tragedy danced in her mind, drawing shadows of what-ifs that lingered at the edge of her thoughts. As the night wore on, they mapped out their plan. Each detail brought them closer to the reality they faced. Marco would confront the pressure surrounding him and take on Vincenzo's threats, but they would walk together in the storm. There was strength in their unity, and Elena could feel it surge through them. The next day came too soon, pulling her from the cocoon of warmth they had created. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the city lights blinked to life, Elena's heart raced in tandem with the streets, knowing that fear and temptation waited on every corner. Tonight we'll face this together, Marco said softly, as they prepared to leave the safety of the apartment. As they stepped outside, the cool air wrapped around them, tinged with uncertainty. The city sparkled like a cruel jewel, drawing them closer to the heart of darkness. Elena clutched Marco's hand, a lifeline as they moved into the tangled web of seduction and sin. She realized now that true love was not just about sweet moments. It was about standing together through the storms. They were two pieces of a risky puzzle, intertwined, fighting against the forces that threatened to tear them apart. With determination igniting her spirit, she knew they would either rise together or succumb to the echo of tragedy. And as they took their first step into the unknown together, Elena understood that every choice they made from that point onward would resonate into their future, echoing with the promise of love and the burden of what lay ahead. Fourth, Deadly Allure. Chapter 5. Caress of the Reckless Flame. The night was alive and electric, filled with the anticipation of danger and desire. Elena leaned against the wall of the dimly lit club, her heart racing as the music pulsed around her. The beat matched the thudding of her heart, each note a reminder of how close she was to the edge of a world that was both thrilling and terrifying. Marco was by her side, his presence grounding her amid the chaos. Yet a flicker of doubt danced in her mind, whispering fears of what lay ahead. Tonight was the night they would confront Vincenzo. She could feel the weight of that decision pressing against her chest, a heavy weight that demanded courage. As she watched Marco scan the crowd, his expression hardened. She was reminded of the reckless flame that fueled their passion, a flame that both warmed and burned. "We're in this together," he said, turning to her, his eyes dark and serious. "No matter what happens tonight." Elena nodded, but her stomach churned with unease. The stakes were high, and the shadows loomed larger than life. "What if he doesn't let us go?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marco stepped closer, solid and unwavering. "Then we fight." His determination was like a strong wind, pushing against her fears. "I won't let him take you from me." Elena felt a rush of strength from his words, but it was mixed with a knot of uncertainty. Love was a powerful force, but so was the darkness that surrounded them. "I'm ready," she replied, trying to steady her voice. As they moved deeper into the club, the atmosphere thickened with tension. The air was heavy with smoke and whispers, promises of desire flitting through the shadows like butterflies. Marco led her through the crowd, his grip firm on her hand. She could see the flashes of bright lights reflecting off the faces around them, each one a mask hiding secrets and lies. Suddenly, they stopped in front of a narrow hallway that led to the back rooms. Marco's jaw set, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. This was it, the edge of the precipice. Are you sure? Marco asked, his brow furrowing in concern. Yes, Elena replied, steeling herself. We have to face him. I won't let fear control me. With a curt nod, Marco pushed forward, and as they crossed the threshold into the darkness, she felt a shiver of excitement mixed with dread. The hallway echoed with muffled sounds. Ominous laughter and heated voices came from behind closed doors. Each step felt heavier, and her heart raced with every beat that echoed in the silence. At the end of the hall, a heavy door loomed. Vulcan manufactured steel and dark wood. Its presence was foreboding. Marco paused. Are you ready? He asked, searching her face. Elena swallowed hard. We have to do this, she insisted, trying to fend off the butterflies that danced in her stomach. She knew the risks all too well, but more than fear, she felt a fierce determination bubble up inside her. With a deep breath, Marco pushed the door open. The room inside was dimly lit, filled with shadows and the scent of cigars. Vincenzo sat on a luxurious leather chair, a smirk on his face as he raised an eyebrow at their entrance, his demeanor dripping with condescension. Around him were several men, their expressions cold and calculating. Well, well, if it isn't the lovebirds, Vincenzo drawled, his voice smooth and taunting. What brings you to my humble abode? Elena's skin prickled at his gaze. She felt exposed, vulnerable. But Marco stepped forward, exuding an air of confidence. We want to talk, he said firmly. Talk? Vincenzo's laughter was low and dark, echoing through the room. What can you possibly offer me? You're both in way over your heads. Let her go, Marco demanded, a fierce protectiveness radiating from him. You've made your threats. Enough games. The room sizzled with tension. Vincenzo leaned forward, his expression shifting to one of delight mixed with menace. But you see, it's not about threats. It's about control, Marco. And right now, I hold all the cards. Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding, their fight igniting a fire inside her. We won't let you use us as pawns, she declared, her voice trembling but resolute. We're not afraid of you. Vincenzo's gaze sharpened, and for a moment, silence filled the room. The air was thick with unspoken hatred and raw emotions. Brave words, Elena, but there's something you should know about. Bravery, he replied slowly, his voice a soft hiss. It often leads to recklessness, and recklessness leads to tragedy. Marco's hand tightened around hers, a silent reassurance. What do you want? He demanded, cutting through Vincenzo's taunts. I want you both to understand what happens when someone challenges my authority, Vincenzo replied, his smile sinister. If I decided to make an example out of you, the people would listen. Elena's heart raced. She could feel the stakes rising, the sense of danger wrapping around them like a noose. We're not a threat, she stated, but doubt clouded her words. Would he kill them for what they dared to oppose? Vincenzo stood up, his presence looming before them. That's where you're wrong, my dear. You represent defiance, and defiance must be punished. Tension crackled in the air, like electricity at a storm's edge. Marco's body tensed beside her, ready for whatever would come next. If you think you can take us down without a fight, you're mistaken, he growled. Let's make this interesting, Vincenzo said, his eyes glinting with malice. How about we raise the stakes? If you survive the night, I'll let you both go. If not, he trailed off, his meaning clear and chilling. Elena and Marco exchanged glances, fear sparking between them. This wasn't just a game, it was a trial. What happens if we refuse? She asked, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her. Refusing isn't an option, Vincenzo replied, his smile widening. You're already entangled in my web. You can't escape. Without warning, he signaled to one of the men beside him, and the man stepped closer to them. Violence was, no doubt, on the precipice of their night. Suddenly, adrenaline surged through Elena. The reckless flame that had ignited their passion flared within her, pushing back against the fear. I won't be a prisoner, she declared, her voice fierce. Not to you, not to anyone. Marco's gaze met hers, a shared determination lighting the flames between them. We will fight for our lives, he vowed, his grip tightening around her arm. Vincenzo's expression darkened as he took a step back, surprised by their defiant stance. Very well, he said, his voice low and predatory. Let us see how well you dance on the edge of danger. The challenge hung in the air like a dark promise, and as they stood before Vincenzo, the weight of their choices thundered around them, threatening to swallow them whole. Elena knew they were playing with fire, but she also understood the depth of their bond, one powerful enough to confront even the most reckless of flames. In that moment, she realized that love was as fierce as any danger, a fervent blaze that could consume or protect. They would either rise from the ashes or fall together, forever bound by the reckless fire they dared to ignite. As their confrontation unfolded, Elena felt the weight of destiny pushing her forward, ready to embrace whatever awaited them. Fourth, Deadly Allure. Chapter 6. A Heart Ignited by Vengeance. The room thrummed with a tense silence after Vincenzo's words hung in the air. Elena could feel her heart beating in her throat, each thud echoing the pulse of fear and anger that coursed through her. This was not just a battle for survival. It was a fight for everything they cared about. The shadows were closing in, and she knew they had to summon every ounce of courage within them. Marco stood at her side, fierce and determined, but she sensed a storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. Anger flickered in his eyes, a fire ignited by the very threat they were facing. Elena felt adrenaline burn through her, mixing with her fears and igniting a desire for vengeance. They could not allow Vincenzo to control their destinies any longer. Let's show him who we are, she whispered, her voice trembling with adrenaline. We can't back down. Marco turned to her, and she saw the fight spark to life in his eyes. You're right. We take back. What's ours? As they faced Vincenzo, the stakes began to shift. The thrill of danger enveloped them like a raging storm. Marco stepped forward, boldly confronting the man whose threats had ignited their determination. You don't understand the power of what you're dealing with, he stated, confidence drowning out fear. Vincenzo tilted his head, intrigued. Oh? Enlighten me. Elena watched as Marco's fierce devotion to her sparked the fire in his soul. I will fight for her, he declared, every word ringing true. And if you think you can tear us apart without facing consequences, you're mistaken. The room tensed, the air thick with tension. Elena could see the flickers of surprise in Vincenzo's eyes, but they quickly turned to amusement. You think love will save you? He scoffed, his laughter a dark melody. Love doesn't matter in this world. Power does, Elena felt a surge of anger at his words. Power built on fear, she shot back. We won't be frightened anymore. Vincenzo's expression darkened, tension stretching between them like a tightrope. Brave words, but when you fight, you must be ready to suffer the consequences. Understand that. His voice dripped with menace. If I so wish, I could crush you where you stand. Marco took a step forward, his resolve unshaken. You're not stronger than us together. You're underestimating me, Vincenzo replied, his eyes gleaming with malice. Elena didn't want to feel fear. She wanted to harness the fire that burned in her chest. Let's end this now then, she said. This isn't just about us. We are not powerless. Very well, Vincenzo purred. If you want to play a game, let's make it interesting. He gestured to the men around him, a smirk still gracing his lips. We'll set some rules, you'll see. When you think you've won, the game will have just begun. Marco's jaw clenched, but he didn't take his gaze away from Vincenzo. We'll do whatever it takes. You will not control us or our future any longer. Vincenzo chuckled softly, his eyes glinting in the low light. Let's see if you're right. As they turned to leave, Elena's heart raced with both hope and dread. The stakes had shifted again, but the battle was far from over. Every ounce of fear that swirled inside her transformed into burning motivation. She was ready to confront whatever awaited them, the flames of vengeance and love fueling her spirit. Outside the door, the chaotic dance of neon lights greeted them. Marco pulled her to his side, the city's heartbeat resonating through the barricades of fear. What was that? You were on fire back there, he said, a teasing smile breaking through the tension. More like anger on fire, Elena replied, a determined smile creeping across her lips. But I feel alive. I can't let him win. We have to fight back. A wave of pride washed over Marco, and he nodded. We will. I promise to protect you, no matter what happens. As they walked through the crowded streets, the adrenaline coursing through Elena began to fade. Yet the flames of vengeance crackled in her heart. They passed through the alleyways that warmed her memories, but now those paths held the weight of unknown dangers. Elena, we need to gather allies, Marco said suddenly. We can't take him down alone. The thought of reaching out for help sent shivers down her spine, but she also felt the chains of fear loosening around her heart. Who do we trust? Marco was silent for a moment, the glow of the city lighting up his face. People who know the game. People who also want to take Vincenzo down. I'll do whatever it takes, Elena replied, her voice steady. They turned a corner, heading toward a bar known for its hidden alliances and secret meetings. We'll build our army. The bar was dim, with red lights and leather booths that lined the walls. The wood was aged but polished, filled with memories of laughter and whispered secrets. Marco led her to a secluded corner, and after a few moments, a figure approached. The man was rugged and fierce, a scar running along his jawline. Marco, what brings you here? He asked, his tone cautious but respectful. We need help, Marco said, determination ironclad in his voice. Vincenzo plans to crush us, and we refuse to be pawns any longer. The man cocked an eyebrow, interest piqued. And why should I help? The Mafia plays dirty. Because we're fighting for something real, Elena interjected, her spirit igniting once more. Love. Freedom. We can make a difference. He studies her for a moment, calculating her words. Passion is dangerous in this world. You understand that, right? People get hurt. Yes, she admitted, her heart pounding fiercely. But doing nothing is worse. We can't live in fear anymore. A flicker of admiration crossed his face. You've got guts, I'll give you that. I'll think about it. But this fight won't be easy. We'll do whatever it takes, Marco replied, while Elena felt the heat of vengeance swirl powerful around them. They were no longer just two souls caught in a whirlwind. They were ignited flames ready to face the storm together. As they walked out of the bar, Elena felt lighter. The path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty, but the true power of their love burned bright. They would take on Vincenzo, and this time, they would fight not only for their future, but also for each other. And as the night wrapped around them, she realized there was strength in vulnerability, that a heart ignited by vengeance could still find its way back to love. The entangled web of emotion that bound them only fueled their desire to rise against the firestorm. Their journey had only just begun, but with each step forward, they were no longer shackled by fear. Instead, they were liberated, fueled by passion, seeking their destiny together, ready to face whatever trials lay ahead. Fourth, Deadly Allure. Chapter 7, Dance of Desire and Death. The night unfolded like a dark promise as Elena stood in front of the mirror. The shimmering dress hugged her curves, its deep red fabric reflecting the fires of her heart. She was trapped between two worlds, the soft glow of romance and the cold grip of danger that loomed over her. Tonight was a secret meeting with their allies, a dance of intrigue where desire intertwined with the specter of death. Her heart raced. Everything felt alive, electric, and terrifying. Marco entered the room, his presence filling the space with a charged energy. He was dressed sharply, a fitted suit that accentuated his strong shoulders. His eyes took in her appearance, and for a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. You look beautiful, he breathed, a flicker of admiration sparking in his gaze. Thanks, she replied, a smile dancing on her lips, but her stomach churned with nerves. Do you really think this will work? Marco stepped closer, taking her hands in his. We have to believe that it will. These people are our best chance against Vincenzo. Elena nodded, trying to suppress her fears. What if it doesn't go as planned? What if someone doesn't show? We can't control everything, he said softly, his eyes steady. But we can control our courage. Just trust me. With that, they left the safety of the apartment, stepping into the night, the air thick with unspoken tension and the scent of impending danger. The streets bustled, with life, unaware of the darker undertones lurking in the shadows. The destination was a hidden warehouse known for secret meetings within the Mafia world. Arriving at the venue, Elena felt her pulse quicken. The warehouse loomed, dimly lit and shrouded in secrets. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy, filled with heavy laughter and guarded conversations. She could see groups huddled together, plotting their next moves against Vincenzo. Marco led her to a corner where they could strategize. "Stay close and make sure you watch for any signs of trouble," he instructed. Elena felt the weight of his words settle on her shoulders. They needed this connection, this alliance to survive the dangerous game they were playing. As the night progressed, the tension simmered just below the surface, a dance between uncertainty and hope. Elena watched as people moved about, exchanging promises, their voices mixing to create a sinister melody. Each laugh felt like a reminder of how fragile the alliances were. Suddenly, a figure stepped forward. It was the man from the previous meeting, the one with scars and a fierce expression. "We've heard whispers," he said, his voice low and commanding. "Vincenzo has plans to strike at the heart of our operations. We have to move quickly." Elena clenched her fists, her heart racing. "What do we do?" she asked, fear edging her voice. "We strike first," Marco replied, determination in his eyes. "We need to hit him where it hurts before he even knows. We're coming." The room buzzed with energy, the intensity rising as plans unfolded. They spoke in hurried tones, each idea sharpened by the threat looming over them. Elena's heart raced with adrenaline, yet resistance bubbled within her. "If we attack, we could be walking into a trap. We can't act recklessly." Marco turned to her, his expression fierce. "We can't let fear paralyze us. This is our chance." "But what if it costs us everything?" she pressed, urgency thrumming in her veins. "Then we face whatever comes together," he insisted. For a moment she felt torn. The fire was building within her, fueled by desire and revenge, but the shadow of dread loomed large. They couldn't afford any missteps. They were dancing on the edge of danger. As they continued discussing their tactics, Elena's eyes wandered through the dim light, catching glimpses of the others. Some appeared eager, their eyes glinting with ambition, while others were hesitant, weighed down by fear. It all felt like a perfect storm, a delicate dance where one wrong step could send them spiraling into chaos. And then the moment shattered. A loud crash echoed, the sound of wood splitting and voices rising sharply. Elena's heart raced as panic surged through her veins. Marco's eyes narrowed, instinct taking over. "We have to get out of here." The room erupted in chaos. People were shouting, scrambling to grab weapons as they prepared for an ambush. Elena clutched Marco's arm tightly, her breath coming in quick. "Burst. What's happening?" "Vincenzo's men," Marco shouted, urgency in his voice. "Follow me." In the thick of the chaos, they rushed toward the back exit, but Elena's mind raced. They had come to seize control, to ignite a rebellion against the man who threatened their lives. However, now they were facing his retaliation, caught in a deadly dance where desire for freedom intertwined with the reality of death. As they bolted out into the night, Elena felt the world around her pulse with danger. The streetlights flickered ominously, shadows darting around them, revealing the dark intentions that lurked behind each corner. They sprinted, weaving through alleyways, adrenaline fueling their desperate escape. "Keep moving," Marco urged, his grip firm around her wrist. "We need to find somewhere safe." But the sounds of pursuit echoed behind them, menacing footsteps closing in fast. A surge of panic swept over Elena, mingling with the steady determination of her heart. They could not be caught. This escape meant everything. "There," Marco shouted, pointing toward a narrow side street. They dashed into the shadows, breathless and frantic. Just as they rounded the corner, a figure blocked their path. Another one of Vincenzo's men, his dark eyes filled with malice. In that moment, time slowed. Marco pushed Elena behind him, a wall of protection, ready to confront the threat head-on. "Get back!" he shouted, eyes fierce and alive with determination. But another figure stepped out of the shadows, a familiar face among the chaos, the scarred man from earlier. "Wait!" he yelled, raising his hands in surrender. The sudden shift froze Elena in place. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, confusion and anger boiling in her chest. "He was trying to warn you," a new voice echoed from the darkness. "But it's too late now." Elena turned, terror creeping into her bones. The sound of footsteps behind them had grown louder. The feeling of being enclosed in a cage of danger sent a chill down her spine. In that moment of chaos, her resolve ignited. "We can't let him win," she shouted, fury igniting within her. As the group moved together against the incoming tide, a dance of desperation unfurled. Their eyes burned with shared defiance, and even in the face of death, they would not back down. The music of their fates played on heavy drums, reminding them of what could be lost. Marco's grip tightened around Elena, his expression fierce with purpose. "We fight together," he declared. In that instant, everything surrounding them snapped into focus. It wasn't just about survival. It was about fighting back, about redefining their world amid chaos and darkness. This wasn't just a dance of desire. It was a battle against death itself, and in the flames of adversity, they would either rise together or fall in flames. Elena took a deep breath, the fire igniting her heart once more, her will united with Marco's. In this moment, they would unleash their fury, stand their ground, and dance with death to reclaim their lives. Their love forged in fire would guide them through the darkest night, a beacon of hope against the despair that threatened to overwhelm them. And together, they would write their own destiny, battling against the tides of danger with every heartbeat. Fourth, Deadly Allure. Chapter 8, Shadows of Love and Retribution. The night was thick with tension as Elena and Marco navigated through the labyrinth of dark alleyways. Every shadow felt alive, whispering secrets that sent chills down her spine. They had barely escaped the chaos, but the threat still loomed large, like a storm hanging low on the horizon. With each step, Elena's heart beat louder, tethered between fear and determination, caught in the shadows of love and the deep yearning for retribution. "This way," Marco urged, pulling her toward a dimly lit doorway, hidden behind stacks of crates. They slipped inside, exhaling relief, but the air inside felt heavy with uncertainty. "We need to regroup," he said, his voice low. The room was small but had the glow of brightness that reminded her of safety. Flickering fluorescent lights overhead cast a ghostly glow on their faces. Elena's mind raced with painful thoughts of everything that had happened. Each detail pounded against her. Consciousness. They had to be smarter. They couldn't let their love be the weakness that led to their ruin. As they huddled together, Marco's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "We'll figure this out," he said, his eyes steady. "But we need a plan." "A plan to take down Vincenzo for good," she replied, her eyes narrowing. "We need to expose him." Marco nodded, but there was uncertainty behind his gaze. Exposing him could lead to his retaliation. He's dangerous. But we can't keep running or hiding. Her voice was firm but steady. "We have to end this. We have to fight back." The fire of anger ignited within her, fueled by betrayal and fear. Marco's warmth wrapped around her, grounding her but also energizing her resolve. She had already felt the pain of loss, and she couldn't bear the thought of losing him. An uneasy silence enveloped them as thoughts of their enemies hung heavily in the air. "If we're going to do this, we can't leave any room for mistakes. We need to catch him." "Off guard," Marco said resolutely. Elena nodded, determination settling more firmly within her. "We have to gather evidence. Find allies who know how to play this game." "All right, then," he said, gripping her shoulders with urgency. "I have a contact, someone who knows details about Vincenzo's operations. If we can convince him to help, we may have a chance." "What do we need to convince him?" Elena asked, curiosity flaring. Marco hesitated. "We might have to expose some of our own ties because he won't trust us otherwise." Elena felt her heart race. She had already tasted the bitterness of betrayal that came from revealing secrets. She was not ready to share everything, not even with those they had just met in this tangled web of danger. "But what if we lose everything?" she asked, her voice filled with apprehension. "We have to be willing to risk it all to take him down," Marco insisted. With the vision of their lost love dancing in her heart, Elena nodded slowly, exchanging a brief glance of understanding. They had made a commitment to fight together, and love demanded sacrifice. "Let's do this," she whispered, summoning every ounce of courage she possessed. They emerged from the room, breathless and charged with purpose. The streets were still alive, crowded with life, unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. Elena clutched Marco's hand tightly, feeling the energy and warmth of his presence guide her. They moved swiftly, navigating through the crowd, each step laced with fear and anticipation. Soon they reached a small, dimly lit bar where Marco's contact was said to lurk. The wooden door creaked as they entered, and the heavy scent of tobacco and whiskey filled the air, mingling with laughter and muffled conversations. They found a table in the corner, and just as they sat, a tall man with a rugged face and a sly smile approached. "Marco," he said, settling into the chair opposite them, "what can I do for you?" Marco wasted no time. "We need information on Vincenzo. We need allies, and we're willing to share whatever you want to know." The man raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "You're walking a dangerous path," he cautioned, leaning closer. "If you get caught in the crossfire, it can turn deadly." "I'm aware," Elena interjected, her voice steady, "but we can't let fear cripple us. We're tired of being pushed around." The man studied her, amusement dancing in his eyes. "You've got some fire in you, but fire can also burn," he warned. "I'd rather burn fighting for the life I want than cower in fear," she declared. "Bold word," he replied, tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the table. "But how do I know you won't back out?" Marco leaned in closer, the tension in the air thickening. "Because we know the consequences. We're ready to fight and make our stand." Their resolve hung in the air, heavy but undeniable. "Fine," the man finally said, leaning back in his seat, a smirk playing on his lips. "I'll help you, but I'll need something in return." "What do you want?" Marco asked, his voice tense. "The information you've got on your end, and a bit of trust wouldn't hurt," he added, crossing his arms. "Share your secrets, and I'll share mine. Vincenzo has vulnerabilities you can exploit if you play it right." Marco and Elena exchanged a quick glance. The stakes felt unbearably high. "We can do that," she said cautiously, trying to keep her voice steady. "Then we have a deal," the man replied, his smirk widening. "But remember, you mess us up, and your mistakes will catch up with you. I'm not here to babysit." They shook hands, sealing their alliance in a world where trust was as rare as diamonds. As they left, the shadows wrapped around them again. The weight of their choices pressed on their shoulders. The success of their plan was still uncertain, the chasm of danger yawning wide. Yet in the midst of uncertainty, hope sprouted like a flower amid concrete. Marco looked at Elena, his gaze fierce and unwavering, somehow drawing strength from their connection, despite the shadows that lurked nearby. "We're doing the right thing, aren't we?" Elena took a breath, deepening her resolve. "Yes, we will find our path through these shadows. We will make Vincenzo pay for everything he has done." With renewed determination, they forged ahead, hand in hand, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Shadows flickered in their path, but with love and vengeance igniting their hearts, they would not falter. Together they would confront the darkness, and together they would find their way back to the light. In the end, it was not just about revenge, but creating a future. A life where love could flourish without the grip of fear. They would become the architects of their own destiny, with shadows behind them and hope lighting the way forward. Fourth Deadly Allure. Chapter 9. The Lure of Ruin and Redemption. The air crackled with a tense energy as Elena and Marco stood in the cramped office of their new ally. The dim lighting flickered like their hopes, each pulse reminding her of how precarious their situation was. In front of them lay a map of Vincenzo's territory, a maze filled with traps and secrets. This was their chance. The lure of both ruin and redemption dangled tantalizingly close. "Elena, we have to be smart about this," Marco said, his finger tracing the lines on the map. "These locations are crucial to his operations. If we strike at the heart of it, we can take him down." She leaned in closer, her heart pounding. Each moment felt heavy with the risks they would take. "But if we hit them too hard, he'll retaliate before we're ready," she cautioned. Marco looked over at her, determination shining in his eyes despite the shadows lurking in the corners of the room. "True, but sitting back only gives him more time to strike. We have to act, and we have to do it now." Elena swallowed hard. The flames of vengeance flickered inside her, battling against the fear that threatened to consume her. "What's the plan?" "We gather a team and move in at dusk. We'll hit the supply routes first, disrupt the flow of his resources. It's the first step toward destabilizing his entire operation, Marco replied, enthusiasm edging his voice. Each word filled her with both excitement and dread. They were no longer running. They were taking a stand, fighting for their lives and the love they'd grown to fiercely protect. But something in her mind whispered doubts. And what if we fail? What if we lose everything? Then we fight harder. I won't let anything happen to you, he vowed, reaching out to squeeze her hand tighter. His promise lit a fire in her spirit. They were battling more than just Vincenzo. This was about reclaiming their lives, their choices, and their future. Okay, let's do this, Elena said. Resolve, hardening her voice like steel. Time passed in a blur of frantic preparations. They enlisted a small band of allies, friends from the streets who were feeling the weight of Vincenzo's tyranny, each one brimming with anger and courage. As dusk approached, she could feel the simmering tension in the air thickening. When they gathered one last time, the flickering light cast long shadows that danced on their faces. Marco stood with a fierce intensity, rallying the group's spirit, while Elena felt the weight of their collective fears. This is it. We're fighting for ourselves tonight, Marco declared, determination imbuing every word. As they left the dim office, a sense of purpose surged through Elena. They ventured out into the twilight, where the vibrant colors of the sunset collided with the dark realities of their world. The streets were alive with sounds, a dance of life and danger intertwined. But with every step closer to Vincenzo's territory, Elena felt a knot of fear tighten within her. They reached the perimeter of Vincenzo's grounds under the cover of darkness, the air thick with anticipation. The moon hung high above, casting a cold glow over the chaos they were about to unleash. This is it. Stick to the plan, and we'll make it back together, Marco whispered. Locking eyes with her, the connection between them more profound than ever. Elena nodded, pushing aside her fears, ready to unleash the storm within her. As they moved deeper into enemy territory, every sound echoed louder, clattering of crates, murmured conversations, the distant laughter of men unaware they were being hunted. When they struck, moments unfolded like snapshots of intensity. They set to work, racing through the supply routes, cutting connections, sabotaging shipments. It was chaotic but electric, adrenaline surging through her veins. They worked seamlessly as a team, empowering each other. But even amid the thrill, a dark specter loomed. Vincenzo. Suddenly, shouts echoed from behind. The sound of footsteps thundered closer, ripping through the veil of their success. "They're on to us!" Marco yelled, his eyes wide with urgency. Elena's heart dropped. "We have to fall back," she shouted, but Marco shook his head. "Number. We have to hold our ground. We can't let them regroup," he insisted. In that moment, a choice loomed before them. They could continue fighting or retreat and potentially lose everything they had fought for. The lure of ruin whispered temptations of surrender, but their fiery spirit illuminated the shadows. "We fight!" Elena declared, grabbing a weapon she had secured from the supplies. The confrontation erupted, chaos spilling through the air. Elena and Marco fought side by side, their movements synchronized in an elegant dance of survival. Every enemy that approached felt like an embodiment of the darkness that had threatened to consume them for too long. But as the battle raged, tides shifted. A figure emerged from the shadows, Vincenzo, himself, dressed in black, his eyes gleaming with malice. "Ah, my dear Elena and Marco," he said, a smug grin betraying his enjoyment of the spectacle. "Did you think you could disrupt my operation without consequences?" Elena's heart dropped at the sight of him, and anger surged within her. "We're not afraid of you, Vincenzo," she shouted, gripping the weapon tightly. "Oh, but you should be," he replied, voice dripping with mockery. "You've stirred the wrath of men far more dangerous than you can imagine." With that, a wave of Vincenzo's men surged forward, and the chaotic battle escalated. Each clash felt like a blow against her heart. Desperation enveloped her. They had fought too hard to turn back now. "Stick together," Marco shouted, his voice a beacon through the chaos. With every strike they made, the connection between them felt fortified. But the conflict wore on. They were fighting more than one battle. Elena glanced at Marco, who wore a determined expression, but even he looked strained beneath the onslaught. The realization weighed heavily on her heart. The lure of ruin was dangerously close, and the specter of failure loomed. Just then, she saw an opening. "Marco, we have to regroup. We can't let him split us apart." He met her gaze with a fierce light. "Right, let's move." They fought through the chaos, weaving their way back toward the area where they had begun, surrounded by the flicker of flames and the echoes of chaos. But as they neared safety, disaster struck. Another figure emerged from the shadows, a gun raised, aimed directly at Marco. "Marco, watch out!" Elena screamed, but it was too late. The shot rang out, echoing through the night air like a stark bell tolling. In that moment, time froze. Marco spun, and Elena felt the world tilt. The bullet met its target, and the look of pain on Marco's face shattered her heart. "No!" she cried, rushing to his side, lifting him into her arms. He gasped, eyes wide, pain flashing across his features, but through it all, determination shone in his eyes. "Elena, you have to go. Finish this," he whispered. "No, I won't leave you," she insisted, tears streaming down her cheeks. The lure of ruin had never felt so real, an entire world crumbling before her eyes. "Promise me," he urged, voice strained. "You have to keep fighting. For us." With a trembling heart, Elena nodded, unable to speak as fear and despair washed over her. She would not give in, not while she still had a chance. She had tasted both loss and love, but this time she would fight for redemption. As the world blurred around her, energy surged through her veins, igniting a fierce fire within. This wasn't just a battle for survival, it was everything they had fought for together. Rising from the depths of anguish, she picked up the weapon that had fallen to the ground. Overwhelmed with a tidal wave of determination, she centered herself. "Vincenzo!" she shouted, voice ringing out against the chaos, cutting through the noise. "This isn't over." Fueled by love and vengeance, Elena plunged back into the fray, ready to face whatever darkness loomed. She would reclaim what had been taken from her, a warrior drawn toward the light of redemption, even amid the threat of ruin. As the battle continued, she felt the weight of their connection, a bond that would never be severed. Even if they were separated by the chaos of war, their love would guide her as she forged ahead, determined to fight for a future that belonged to them. The lure of ruin would not win. Redemption awaited, and she would seize it with both hands. Fourth, Deadly Allure. Chapter 10. Embrace of the Enigmatic Serpent. The room felt charged with an electric tension as Elena stepped through the doorway. The dim light illuminated the eyes of several men gathered inside, their gazes assessing her every move. Shadows clung to the corners, reminiscent of the secrets they all held. This was the territory of Vincenzo, and in this dangerous game, she felt the weight of every choice press upon her. Elena's heart raced. It was more than the fear of being caught. It was the knowledge that she was treading into the lair of a serpent known for his cunning and ruthlessness. Yet she couldn't turn back now. She had to confront not just him, but the very darkness that threatened to consume her. The stakes were higher than ever. "Welcome, Elena." Vincenzo's voice slithered through the air, smooth and cold. He leaned back in his chair, a dragon surveying his realm. The flickering candlelight accentuated the sharp angles of his face, and the air around him was heavy with danger. "Why did you want to meet?" she managed, holding on to her courage as best as she could. Inside, her heart thundered, driven by anger and resilience. Vincenzo's lips curled into a smirk. "To settle things once and for all. You've been quite the thorn in my side, you know." He motioned to the space beside him. "Come join me. It will be easier to speak face to face." Elena hesitated. The last thing she wanted was to be closer to him. Yet she knew that avoiding confrontation would not serve her. She walked forward, every step feeling like a leap into the abyss. "Let's get to the point. I'm here to end this." Vincenzo chuckled softly, the sound almost playful. "End it? That's quite ambitious of you." He leaned forward, his gaze intense. "You think you can take me down? You, a mere girl in a man's world?" "I'm more than a girl," she replied, her voice steadying. "I will protect what is mine." "Ah, your resolve is admirable," he said, amusement flickering in his eyes. "But it makes you blind to the real danger. Suddenly he stood, moving with a predator's grace, approaching her with a predatory smile. You see, Elena, you're not just a player in this game. You're a pawn in a bigger scheme, one that you've already lost. Elena's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, everything around her dimmed, the shadows deepening. What do you mean? She demanded, trying to hold her ground, even as a shiver traveled down her spine. There are forces at work that you cannot begin to comprehend, he replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. You're fueled by vengeance, but that kind of fire can consume you. It's why people like me always prevail. A wave of uncertainty washed over her, but she pushed it aside, focusing on the fire within. I won't let you control my fate, she declared defiantly. Fate? Vincenzo echoed, his expression shifting to one of genuine interest. You think you can change what's written? You think you can stop me? Maybe not change it, but I can fight it. He laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that sent chills up her spine. Oh, but fighting me is akin to wrestling with a serpent, my dear. I can ensnare you before you can even strike. His confidence was unsettling, and Elena felt doubt creep into her heart. Vincenzo had always been several steps ahead, but she refused to show fear. Then let's see what happens when we embrace the chaos together, she challenged, surprising even herself at the words flowing from her lips. Chaos? Vincenzo's interest piqued. So willing to dance with danger, are you? Tell me, what are you truly willing to sacrifice? I'll do whatever it takes to protect the ones I love, she said, firm in her resolve. You and your reign of terror ends tonight. There was a glimmer of something in Vincenzo's gaze. Appreciation, curiosity, perhaps even respect. You really are a fascinating one, Elena. He walked back to his chair, leaning back as though pondering a complex puzzle. However, this is a dangerous game we're playing. Why not join forces instead? Elena frowned, caught off guard. What do you mean? Work with you? Think about it. You could have power, a position in this world instead of being an enemy. Never, she replied, her conviction unwavering. I will not stand by your side while you harm innocent people. Vincenzo leaned forward, eyes narrowing. You are a threat to my operations, and threats must be neutralized. In that instant, a decision loomed before her. She could either cower in the shadows of fear or rise as a beacon of hope and defiance against the serpent before her. The embers of rage ignited deep within her, driving her forward. I'm not afraid of you, she hissed, her voice bold. You can try to strike me down, but I will fight. I will expose you to the world. Vincenzo's smile faded, replaced by a cold fury. You are stepping into a pit of vipers, Elena. The deeper you go, the harder it is to escape. And that's just it. She shot back, her heart racing with defiance. I'm ready to face the viper's nest. I'd rather die fighting than live under your rule. You have spirit, he admitted, but his tone remained dangerous. But spirit without wisdom leads to ruin. I'd rather take my chances with spirit than with the cold embrace of your manipulation, she countered, her words carrying the weight of every choice she had ever made. Vincenzo leaned back, evaluating her with keen eyes. Very well. If it's a fight you want, then it's a fight you shall have. The tension in the room thickened, each heartbeat resonating louder than the last. But she would not be intimidated any longer. I'll see you too close to despair, she declared, holding her ground against the serpent's influence. With that, she turned on her heel and stormed out of the lair, every step resonating with newfound determination. She stepped into the night air, breathless and filled with purpose. Every moment led her closer to the confrontation that would define her destiny. Not just a battle against Vincenzo, but a confrontation with the very essence of who she was. She could feel the sharp chill of the night reflecting the shadows she had faced, but with each breath drawn, she sensed the warmth of hope igniting within her. As she strode into the dark streets, it dawned on her that redemption was not simply a destination, it was a journey. Surrounded by shadows and danger, she chose to embrace the light inside of her and face the enigmatic serpent that threatened to pull her under. Her resolve solidified. She would no longer be a pawn in someone else's game. She would emerge as the warrior she was meant to be, ready to bring downfall upon those who sought to ruin her world. In the embrace of chaos, she had found clarity. In the face of the formidable serpent, she would reclaim her power. And so the dance continued, a battle of wills where the serpent would not only be met with defiance, but with an unwavering spirit that would not be easily broken. The night shimmered with her resolve, and with destiny at her fingertips, Elena would rise against the tide, ready to confront whatever darkness lay ahead. Fourth Deadly Allure. Chapter 11. Fragments of Passion and Revenge. The air was thick with tension as Elena paced in the small, dimly lit room. She could feel the pulse of her heart in her throat, each beat echoing her rising anger and fear. Time felt suspended in chaos after her confrontation with Vincenzo. The darkness that loomed now felt like both a challenge and a burning call to action. It was not just about survival anymore. It was about passion and revenge. Fragments of her memories flashed. Before her, moments with Marco, laughter shared under starlit skies, and whispered promises held close. They had united against the maelstrom of danger, but the deeper they had delved into the underbelly of the Mafia world, the more at risk they became. Their love was a bright flame in the shadows, burning fiercely but fragile like paper in a storm. "Are you ready?" Marco's voice pulled her back from the depths of her thoughts. He stood by the doorway, looking more determined than Elena had ever seen him. His presence filled the room with a warmth that pushed back the darkness. "I am," she replied, though doubt mixed with her resolve. She had to confront the pain that lingered from her past and acknowledge the growing urgency. They had to make a move against Vincenzo before he could tighten his grip further. "Tonight, we strike back. It's our turn to take something precious from him." Marco's words were heavy with emotion, igniting the fire within her. She could see the determination in his eyes, an unyielding passion that stirred her own. "Are we sure this is the right way? What if it backfires?" she asked, nerves tightening in her chest. The risk weighed heavily on her heart, but the desire for vengeance burned equally bright. Marco stepped closer, reaching for her hands. "We'll make it right. This is about reclaiming our lives, Elena, and reclaiming each other. We'll make him pay for what he's done." The spark of belief lit a fire in her soul. She gave a small nod, trusting him and the bond they had built. "Then let's do it together." As they made their way through the dark streets, the night felt alive around them, pulsing with a foreboding energy. Elena could feel the weight of their choices hanging in the air. Every step was a reminder of the sacrifices they were willing to make. Arriving at the old warehouse, a chilling anticipation enveloped her. It was a place that had witnessed many secrets and dark dealings. As they entered, silence enveloped them. Shadows flickered in the corners, and the faint scent of oil and rust hung heavily in the air. "To do this right, we need to rally our allies. They can help us create a diversion," Marco proposed, urgency threading through his voice. Elena nodded, and together they approached their small band of allies. Each face was lit with resolve, a shared understanding of the danger ahead. "We stand with you, Elena and Marco," one man said, gripping a weapon firmly. "Vincenzo has held us down for too long." Elena felt the surge of hope entwined with the urgency of their mission. "We take this opportunity to strike when he least expects it. We hit the supply lines and weaken his hold. No more fear." The group gathered around, adrenaline buzzing in the air. Every heartbeat was a reminder that they were ready to enter the chaos and ignite the flames of change together. As they prepared, Elena felt the fragments of her emotions swirl in a whirlwind. Fear, passion, and a fierce love that held them steadfast. This night could change everything. Suddenly, the heavy garage door creaked, and they all froze. The tension twisted in the air as they huddled close, eyes darting to where the sound came from. Marco signaled for them to be quiet, his face tense. But moments later, Vincenzo's men poured in like a flood, sudden and vicious. It was here. Their plan was already set in motion. "Fight!" Marco shouted, adrenaline coursing through his body as chaos erupted around them. Elena drew her weapon, her heart racing. She fought valiantly alongside their allies, adrenaline surging with every clash. It was a dance of desperation and rebellion. As the frantic struggle unfolded, she caught a glimpse of Marco doing battle, his moves fluid and powerful, yet protective. Every swing he took resonated with the love they shared. Their connection served as armor against the chaos consuming them, fueled by the desire to break free. In the heat of battle, a moment passed between them, a shared glance that spoke volumes. The fragments of love, passion, and shared memories ignited their spirits. With a fierce resolve, they fought side by side, hearts beating as one. But just as hope glimmered at the edge of darkness, Vincenzo appeared, a malevolent grin plastered across his face. "You think you can disrupt my world and walk away unscathed?" he taunted, lifting his weapon. "Not without a fight," Elena shouted back, pushing fear deep down. Anger erupted within her, drawing her closer to the edge. She was not alone this time. She had allies beside her. Elena moved to confront him, her spirit ignited. "Tonight, you face the consequences of your actions." Vincenzo laughed, but there was a hint of disbelief in his eyes. "Do you truly think you can stop me? You're only fragments of your former strength." With each word he uttered, she felt her resolve harden. "We may be fragments, but we're stronger when united." The standoff unfolded as the battle raged around them, but Elena's determination shone bright. "I will not be a pawn in your game any longer." In that moment, as bullets fired and chaos ensued, she caught Marco's eye. Their connection centered her. They were fighting together for their love and freedom. No matter the outcome, they had reclaimed their power and the pieces of their heart from Vincenzo's grasp. With renewed strength surging within her, Elena charged. She fought against all odds, embracing the fragments of who she was, passion-driven and fierce. The collision of emotions flooded her heart, empowering her with every strike. Vincenzo's men faltered, our unyielding allies pressing forward. It felt like everything was falling into place, and the taste of victory lingered in the air. As the dust settled, Elena found herself facing Vincenzo once more, their eyes locking, two forces colliding amid chaos. "This isn't over. You may have won tonight, but you have not won the war," he hissed, backing away. Something inside her ignited at his retreat. She knew this was not merely about revenge. It was about reclaiming her life alongside Marco. No matter where the journey led them, she would rise. Vincenzo was not done, but neither were they. Together they would forge the path forward, shattering the shackles of fear and power once held over them. And as they stood amidst the remnants of their battle, surrounded by allies, Elena realized that every fragment of passion and revenge had molded them into warriors. Their love had equipped them with strength, the kind that would not only survive but flourish amid adversity. In that embrace of chaos and passion, she felt alive, ready to ignite their future in defiance of the darkness that had threatened to pull them under. Together, they would carve a new destiny out of the ashes of their battles and rise stronger, united by love and purpose. Fourth Deadly Allure. Chapter 12. Flames of Desire and Destruction. The night was ablaze, lit by the fiery chaos surrounding them. Elena stood at the edge of the warehouse, where their last confrontation had erupted, the air thick with smoke and the lingering scent of gunpowder. Shadowed figures scrambled to collect themselves, and the vivid flashes of anger and revenge crackled in her veins like wildfire. This was the moment they had fought to claim, the point of no return. Elena's heart raced as she scanned the landscape of destruction. Marco was beside her, breathless and fierce, eyes glimmering with both love and the hunger for retribution. Together they had entwined passion with peril, and now they were prepared to reach for the ultimate prize. The remnants of Vincenzo's power lay crumbling at their feet. "Tonight is our chance," Marco said, determination lining his voice. "We finish this." Elena nodded, fueled by the fierce emotions swirling within her. "He won't see us coming. We need to strike fast and hard." They rallied their allies, hearts pounding with a rhythm of vengeance and unity. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the eerie night, mixing with the crackling embers that danced above them. Each step closer to Vincenzo's lair felt like an approach toward destiny, where hope and desire collided with the specter of destruction. As they moved through the shadows, Elena felt memories of their journey flash before her. Each passion-driven moment had shaped her. Resolve. They had fought against betrayal and loss, and now they were forging their way to reclaim life, their love illuminated against the dark backdrop of chaos. "Are you ready?" Marco whispered, his breath warm against her ear. "Yes," she replied, heart swelling. Together they would embrace the flames of desire and face the destruction that awaited. Upon reaching Vincenzo's territory, they found the dark building looming ahead, an ominous fortress that had instilled fear for far too long. This night it would be a battleground where all would be decided. The air thrummed with tension as their allies positioned themselves. The moment stretched, pulsating with anticipation. Marco looked at Elena, their eyes locking in a shared understanding. "Whatever happens, I'm with you." With a shaky breath, she acknowledged the unspoken bond between them. "And I'm with you." They surged into action, kicking in the door, armed with weapons and a burning desire to reclaim their lives. The plan was set, every detail prepared. Yet the chaos of battle erupted instantly. The men rushed toward them, angry shouts reverberating off the walls. A wave of adrenaline washed over Elena, the thrill of action taking hold. The fight ignited around her like a storm. Marco fought fiercely by her side, each strike a testament to their unity. Elena could feel the heat of the fight intertwining with the flames of passion coursing through her veins. Their movements were fluid and instinctual as they lashed out against the men who had sought to control their fate for too long. "Keep going! We can't stop now!" Marco shouted, and with an unyielding spirit, they pressed on through the thick haze of chaos. But suddenly, just as victory seemed within reach, a shadow fell upon them. Vincenzo emerged from the depths of the darkness, his presence casting a chilling gloom. "You dare challenge me?" he spat, eyes blazing with fury. "Elena, move back!" Marco shouted, pushing her out of the line of fire as Vincenzo leveled his weapon at them. The clash of emotions surged within her, a potent mix of fear and rage. "You've taken everything from us!" Elena yelled, struggling against the whirlwind of uncertainty. "This ends tonight. Do you really think you, a mere girl, can defeat me?" Vincenzo sneered, but she could see her defiance igniting something in him, stirring anger and disbelief. "I'm not just a girl. I am powerful, and I'll fight for what's mine." In that moment, shadows shifted as chaos reigned. Gunfire erupted around them, forcing Marco to shield her from the hail of bullets. Her heart ached to see him protecting her, the embodiment of their love standing firm against the darkness. "Fight!" he urged, moments stretching between them. She understood what was at stake. This was their chance to reclaim their lives forever. With a rush of adrenaline, Elena charged forward, her heart filled with wild determination. She aimed the weapon she had taken from the fallen, locking her focus on Vincenzo. The flames of desire and destruction intertwined, igniting clarity within her soul. "Tonight, you face the reckoning," she shouted, the adrenaline pumping fiercely. She pulled the trigger, feeling both relief and uncertainty wash over her. But instead of collapsing, Vincenzo dodged, a sickening smile still etched on his face. "Foolish girl," he hissed, his weapon raised higher. "You think this will stop me?" Marco surged ahead, furious and boundless. "We'll finish this." With every swing, he fought valiantly, and suddenly, the tension of vengeance exploded around them like fireworks, illuminating the night sky. Elena felt her resolve sharpen. She wasn't just fighting for revenge, she was fighting for hope, for freedom. Charging toward the fray, she took a stand alongside Marco, their combined strength igniting an inferno that threatened to consume all. The battle raged on, their allies fighting alongside them. Each moment felt monumental, a tapestry woven from desire, love, and destruction. Darkness twisted and turned in strange ways, catering to both their vengeance and their deepest fears. As they closed the distance toward Vincenzo, Elena found a surge of courage within her, a flame that pushed her onward. "This ends here," she shouted again, angry determination harmonizing with her heart. But like a serpent, he struck. With a swift motion, Vincenzo swung around, and with all his fury, aimed at Marco. Time slowed, and in that instant, her world narrowed to the man she fought beside. "Marco!" she screamed, diving to protect him, desperate and driven by love. The gun fired and everything changed. Sound shattered like glass, ringing in her ears as darkness enveloped her, and a weight pushed her down. Dazed, she felt Marco's arms pull her close. Elena! No! Every heartbeat echoed in her chest as her vision swirled. Pain lanced through her, but it only ignited a deeper fire for survival. She would not lose her love. She would not let darkness win. In that moment of fragile clarity, she understood the truth. They were the architects of their destiny, and love became the beacon leading them through. Every fragment of what they had lost mattered, because it forged their bond. With one final push, she pulled herself up, determined and fierce. Marco helped her to her feet, their eyes locking again, with love, fear, and a fire unquenchable. "This isn't over, Vincenzo," she growled, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. Together she and Marco advanced. They ignited flames of desire and destruction, surging toward the final confrontation with that grim serpent. This time, they would seize the moment, bent on reclaiming their lives from the embers of chaos. As the night unfolded, the flames lit their path toward redemption. They had crossed a threshold of fear, emerging on the other side, stronger, united, and ready to face whatever lay ahead. Every moment, every sacrifice had brought them closer to this truth. In the aftermath of the battle, they would either rise from the ashes or embrace the beauty of freedom against the weight of destruction. But in their hearts, with passion fueling their drive, they knew they were no longer victims. They were warriors, and the flames of desire and destruction would forever guide their path.